Welcome back to the Super Design Bowl. Joe.
What's up?
Joe, do I look sad?
Yes.
That's because I've been really dreading this episode.
Why?
Because I lost. I'm the big loser in this episode. We're going to be talking to Matt Dawson today. Talking about our Giants matchup, which he won somehow.
Didn't go the way you thought.
I don't know.
Did you?
Yeah. I mean, when he sent me his logo, I was like, I got this in the bag.
But you didn't.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. There's been some voting irregularities potentially. I don't know. I think we're gonna have. I'm calling up this guy in Georgia. I'm gonna see if he can find me some more votes.
That's never backfired before.
I'm gonna see if Matt Gates can help me. I think he's gonna be unemployed really soon, so maybe he can.
He's got nothing else going on.
He's got nothing else going on. Since this is a San Francisco Giants episode, there's an important message that I think we need to play.
Definitely.
Okay.
Here you see one of America's foremost athletes in action. That same famous athlete has a word of caution for young boys and girls.
Hi, this is Willie Mays. Baseball is a game of playing to win, but playing is safe and so is life. You can play hard, but play it safe. If you kids find anything that looks like those, don't touch them. Those are blasting caps. Remember now, don't touch them. Blasting caps are used almost every place. Explosives are used, like in a construction work. But you protect your arms and hands and legs and save your eyes. If you see a blasting cap, remember now, don't touch them. Tell the police or a fireman, wherever it is. Have fun like I do with those and not with these.
Joe, if you see blasting caps.
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Well, one, did they film that in just one take?
It looks like they did it like during warm-ups during a game.
He didn't look prepared at all.
I don't know.
Like they were like,
I had cue cards.
Like he was like blasting caps. Blasting caps?
That might be the only third time in my life I've ever even heard the term blasting caps. I don't know about you. How many blasting caps have you just seen lying around?
None blasting caps.
Yeah. Well, that was the great Say Hey Kid, right? Is that what's his nickname? Willie Mays, the greatest Giant of all time. Let's ask our friend Matt if he's ever encountered a blasting cap. What's your experience with blasting caps, Matt Dawson?
That was my first experience. First and only, possibly ever.
It's such a weird PSA for some kid must have like lost a foot messing around in a construction site with a blasting cap, and they're like in San Francisco. This is
like the one time in recent years where like I haven't felt super old. Like I actually don't know what a blasting cap is, so I kind of feel
I'm
youthful.
assuming it's some sort of cap that blasts.
Well,
obviously.
The blast footage they used seemed a little dramatic.
It was a little dramatic.
It was like if you want to blow up a city block and you find one of these in your backyard.
Yeah.
I don't
know. I probably should have looked up blasting cap. If I could think about it, it's probably a small charge that would probably set off a larger piece of dynamite. Right.
I think you're exactly right from a quick Google.
Oh, awesome.
A riveting episode of Super Blasting Caps Bowl.
You should probably put a disclaimer there because that audio comes in hot.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize the audio.
It's very loud.
Well, listen, the blasting cap epidemic, running rampant across the country. I think it's important that it's loud, so it gets people's attention, and so people, can save their fingers and eyeballs. Okay. Oh God. What a day. What a day. The quality of that video was excellent, by the way. I think they shot that last week. So, so we did the San Francisco Giants. Super interesting. But do you guys have any personal history or affinity for the San Francisco Giants at all? Or was this just sort of a random one that we did? Because I don't.
I liked the Giants being like a kid that grew up in the 90s and 90s baseball being like what it was. You know, I was a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan and a big San Francisco Giants fan, but it was because of Barry Bonds. You know, like that was back whenever you just like you didn't have allegiance to a team as much as you did a player.
Yep.
And
I'm from St. Louis, so we kind of have an allegiance to a team.
I guess so, but like, do you have one whenever you're like 9 or 10? I don't know. It's been a long.
Ozzie Smith was my idol. Oh, are you kidding me? I got his autograph at the IGA that my mom worked at.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I think the Giants. Well, you know what? Why don't we just start talking about their logos here? Let's do this shit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So famously, the Giants moved to San Francisco to the chagrin of New Yorkers everywhere in '58, and they changed their logo at that time. But let's look at the history here. This monogram is dope. Right here.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pull one thing out of here, this thing is that looks buttoned up to me.
Strikingly clean for something done in the mid 50s.
I think that's almost suspiciously too clean.
Yeah,
like I believe someone redrew this.
Like, yeah, that's that's pretty vectored up for 1954.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. But also in that same vein, whoever did that probably did this because this is a total Corel drawl gradient on this baseball right here.
It really is, yeah.
It really is.
I like that script though. That script is it's got legs.
It's got panache.
Yes.
It is interesting and it's unique. It gets a little thin for me in spots. And it probably works. I don't know. This is kind of a mess too.
The serifs.
Sorry, go ahead.
The serifs on these ends, like this is the first time I'm seeing these ends, like even though like the 47 to 54, but those serifs are
this one
wild. Yeah, look at those things.
I don't know what you call those. Teardrop serifs.
Yeah,
Is there a name for those?
The one on the lower right looks like a gargoyle claw.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I wonder why it wasn't just this, or why it wouldn't go the other way. But it was virtually unchanged since 1908, because it's basically the same thing.
I'm also a huge fan of 1904 to 1907 with like that all that breathing room. I actually kind of like that. I would totally wear that.
I like it too.
Through that.
Well, I bet this was like from the cap. And the seam went down the middle of the cap.
Yeah.
Or the jersey, and that's where the buttons went.
Yeah.
But I actually this creates an interesting conversation about the naivete of graphic design from 120 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. What is the appeal of it? Like, can you pinpoint why, as designers, like, we would never design something like this, maybe, but why do we look at this and go, "Oh, we kind of like that"?
Well, I think there was a time where like we probably wouldn't design something like that, and I think though right now somebody would absolutely design something like that, but only because it looks, because it does have that little something, and like we're always reaching back to, there's a lot of quirk InDesign nowadays, and you know,
but you're not going to see it for a major sports team. You know, we're still going to see sort of a slick logo,
very modern, right? very much the desire to look expensive, and you know, modern.
Are you guys afraid at all when we play in this
all the time? Sorry, constantly afraid.
When we play in this sort of sandbox, do you ever feel phony or too trendy, or you know what I mean, or like, well, if you made this logo for something that's supposed to last a long time, it's probably not going to look good in 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Kind of not fair to the client, but you got your Instagram likes.
Well, I'm just interested because, you know, when I go through a process like that, I'm like, well, is it appropriate for me to do something quirky, to use your term,
sure,
for this project? You know, I think that's something I'm always asking myself. And I think I tried to do something slightly quirky with our matchup, but we'll get to that later. So when they got to 54, and then 57, and then 58 when they moved, this is really interesting. It's a giant it's a giant departure, and I wonder if it was I'm curious as to what that was about. Like, is this because, this is every team's got a script, the Dodgers have a script, whatever, let's do something tough and big and giant like for something here?
Yeah, I would love to know what else was going on in the sports landscape back then. I was very small then, so I'm not quite sure. I guess I could have Googled before this, but I didn't. But yeah, that is a massive departure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting my dates messed up. This is when they changed the logo in 58. Sorry, I'm an idiot. So
I was going to say this feels very much 1983, something that would have you know, that people would have been really, you know, into in the early 80s as a departure from the previous script version that they had.
Let me ask you guys a basic design question here. So if we look at the baseball in the background, it's got this thin key line, right? And then the sewing, the seam on the baseball, it's almost like photographic. You know what I mean? Like, it's too detailed. And like, if someone gave this to me, like, okay, you got 10 minutes to make this better, you know, I would just fatten up this line and fatten up the line around here, you know, just to give it everything. I like things fat, I guess. And then simplify the seams. Am I wrong on that assessment?
I mean, that's exactly what I would do. I would match that weight on the ball with that, you know, that inner, you know, orange line throughout the word mark. But you know, it is weird how kind of smoothed over everything is, except for that stitching.
Yeah. This is a huge problem when you're doing a bunch of strokes on type and stuff. All these negative spaces, like when you have the inside of the A, that little tiny touch, and the little.
I think the N bothers me most.
And the N right there, and this part, and this part. Like, it's not as bad here, but there's got to be, you know, whether or not that means you put everything in a giant shape that's black, you know. So that you don't have to deal with all that kind of stuff. It's just, it becomes so busy and messy. so when they went to this in '94, so they had this for 10 years. This is an improvement. There's issues with it still. With the ball is virtually unchanged. But I do appreciate these letter forms. And when did they introduce the monogram? I should know this. Their famous monogram, which is not on here. I wonder. Sorry, go ahead.
That's a good question, because like I feel like these letter forms in like the 94 to 99 iteration are very close to the letter forms in that monogram. But I think the monogram's been around for a really long time. I think Willie Mays had it on his hat in that video we just watched.
You're right. You're right. So they basically just based we love the monogram, based the type on the monogram, which I think is that's smart. That's a smart choice. And then in 2000, they just decided to add all the colors.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting, they went to a more creamsicle orange.
Yeah, that was something I had noticed looking back on like their logo history. Is that
that's accurate?
It is. I feel like that's like I don't see that a lot. You know what I mean? We want to just take everything and make it warmer.
It seems like a weird move for something as for an industry like as kind of aggressive as baseball. It feels like a softer approach to things that are typically always going harder.
What is your guys' take on the arch versus the arc? Right. So in this one, all the verticals are straight up and down. This one is more vintage baseball hand placed letter forms. It does help with the T and the N right here, whereas it kind of got real messy up in here. I think I like this more vintagey style, even though there's too many drop shadows on this shit.
Yeah, I think I like I don't know. I feel like this bottom one, this 2000 and now, like the letter forms are they're taller.
They are. Yeah.
I think I like the scale of 94 to 99.
I'm right on board with you there. Yeah.
But I'd like to see something in between those two.
Yeah.
And those are ridiculously tough letters to draw, at least for me, because I tried to build out some stuff like in that style, and it was like the biggest pain in the ass. I was like, how did people figure this out? Like just trying to get the math right was like, it was intense. I gave up, obviously. So
okay, so let's look at our matchup. Look at this piece of shit. So unfortunately, I can't believe I'm going to do this.
This is embarrassing for you.
This is so embarrassing. I lost. It's my first loss ever in anything. Just kidding. Okay, so let's for some reason when you zoom in on mine, it's all pixelated, which is weird. That's probably why I lost.
That's probably why, yeah.
Probably why I lost. So I'll ask myself what I was going to ask anybody else. So my idea was I liked the script, but it felt, I don't know, it just didn't flow. So I thought, well, let's do one that's a little more vintagey flowing, I guess. And my original idea was a little bit of, you know how in a lot of vintage design, it's a little effed up and it's a little maximalism, like they're adding too many things to it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, let me just keep adding stuff to it. So that's why I have the star, the banner, the year, the baseball, the monogram. It's like, it's way too many things for a logo, but I was trying to go for a feel and I maybe failed. I also went kind of back to the old orange and got rid of the creamsicle orange. And the biggest move is I actually did like a really dark brown instead of black.
I kind of like that dark brown. I was playing around with some dark browns too before I went with black, but I think this works really well for this aesthetic that you're going for. I think that dark brown and orange definitely has like a throwback feel. And I like what you're using as like the highlight color too. I don't know.
Like
It
cream.
worked really well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a sort of addicted to cream, and the band's pretty good too. That's stupid.
Yeah, I don't know why I laughed at that. That was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really bad.
It's trying to make you feel good. You just lost, Billy.
I know. So these are my sketches. This is kind of how I sketch right into Illustrator, and it's a mess, right? So my initial sketch, this is going to be hard to read. I was thinking about putting SF in this part of the G, and then I had the N and this part coming together to make the baseball shape. And then I would do put that on its own layer, and then sketch right on top of that, and sort of just try to refine that a little bit. And at this point, I was like, well, I could put SF and 58, not 58 because of when they moved to San Francisco. And I still kind of like this idea. I just couldn't get it to work. But this giant exaggerated tail, I wanted it to wrap all the way around and then turn into the seams.
Mm-hmm.
But it just looked stupid. And I couldn't quite get it to work. But that's graphic design for you. So this is what I ended up with. And originally I had their actual monogram here, because I was like, I don't want to do the type and the fucking monogram, And then I showed it to Pants, and he said, dude, you can't put the monogram in there. That's cheating. So that's when I did this more vintagey-esque style.
I actually
monogram.
really like that monogram. It's definitely a departure, but it fits with this this style of lettering that you've achieved here. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think I think it was already super close. What was it, like six or seven votes? But like I feel like if you would have just leaned into this monogram, because like this monogram has like that, it feels like it would be like an Ebbets throwback hat.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks like something that might have existed in the 20s. And it looks, I don't know. I think it's rad.
I appreciate that. That was totally what I was going for. Something.
Yeah. I think the monogram is my favorite part. But I also like the little, I like the pennant. I like the star. It's
and I'm going to ask you these questions when we start looking at your process stuff. I typically don't do script stuff like this, so it was kind of just a challenge for myself, and I know that some of my shapes are wonky on this, but it was a fun challenge for me to do. So this is funny. So I posted this on Instagram. So I had been looking at I had been looking at my logo for like 2 months, right? And so to me, it always just said Giants, 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 right? And so when I threw this baseball player and had it go through his legs, I was just like, oh, that's a fun bit of dimension. And then everybody read it as go cunts. So like literal, the worst part is like people wouldn't read other people's comments and people would keep commenting the same thing. I was like, yes, I know. Yes, I know. I know what it looks like. Yes, I know. I'm sorry. God. But kind of just played around with, different colors, sort of highlighted the monogram, just messing around with it. Threw it on a hat. Threw it on his douchebag shirt. But whatever. So just had a little bit of fun with that. And then I went and did, and so then the next day I'm like, there, I fixed it. Fucking jerks.
Which one performed better? The Go Cunts or the Giants?
Go Cunts, way better. Way better. Way better. Probably because at first glance, people thought it was the same post, but whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely why.
Yeah. but let me ask you this. Should I have, irregardless of the post or whatever, I really want to hear real critiques. Like, tell me what sucks about it, please. Like, tell me you fucked that A up. But like, should I have had this a bigger loop here so it looked more like a G? Did you have any? Did you ever? Because in context, I always read it as Giants, but maybe out of context, like maybe it is Giants.
Yeah, that was one of the original thoughts that I knew it was a G because we'd both been working on this for an hour long and talking about it.
Yeah.
And G is just such a weird letter, but that really kind of, I think that could have been exaggerated a little bit more.
Yeah. Would you have just opened it up? The problem is I couldn't, if I had this one open, right, and bigger, then this one would have, then these would be the same size, right?
Yeah. You get
So
kind of like a weird 8 or like S kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just wouldn't be the right balance. I mean, I guess I could have made this one big and then did a small one here. But you live, you learn. But it was fun. I showed it to a few people I was working on it. Nobody ever said, you know what, make that look more like a G. If they had said that, I probably would have fixed it. But whatever. I think I've talked about myself long enough now. Here's the funny, the most interesting. You're the only person to do this in every matchup we've had so far. You're the only person that put a TM on your thing. Was that to protect your idea or to make it look more official?
It was, like I'm always I've like registered and trademarked a couple of things, and I'm always interested in how to bring that element into designs and to make sure that it nestles somewhere nicely. And I thought that little kind of like chamfered edge on the S right there was like a good place to do it. So it's pretty dumb, but then again, I did go full douchebag, and I'm wearing a hat of the same.
Oh yeah,
logo.
we need to talk about that. Hold on, I can.
Here
we go. Show everybody your hat.
Yeah, see, they're already using it. They sent me a hat and everything. It was great.
Wait, for the listeners out there and for Joe, where do you get a hat made?
You can get a one-off hat made at printful.com. And yeah, they don't really seem to give a shit if it looks, close to anything else. So they printed it, sent it. It's embroidered. It's 3D puff embroidery.
Yeah.
And they got it to me within a few days, enough for me to use it to.
What do you mean a few days? Like you put the order in and you get it a few days later?
This thing came like 5 days later, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I'll tell you what though, that TM got me in trouble with another print manufacturer that like wouldn't print it because they told me it was trademarked, and I sat on the phone with them trying to explain like, no, like it's like a proof of concept, and I put that in there, and they're like, sir, this is trademarked artwork. Like,
you're foiled by your own petard.
Yeah,
wasted by your own petard. Oh my god. Could you just be like, oh, here, just send it back to him? And look, I took the TM off. We're good.
Yeah,
that's hilarious to me, honestly.
I like to imagine that you're like, hold on, I got the the trademark, I got the owner here, let me put him on, and then you like kind of change your voice.
The owner of the Giants.
Hey, this is Mr. Giant. Wanted you to print the hat for the man.
Oh my god! So you sent me this really cool image, sort of your sort of process, your sort of bullet points. I'd love to hear your process through this a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would go as far to call it really cool, but just because like
listen, I okay, maybe I'm a little loose with the term "really cool." I'm sorry, but
I appreciate it. Like, I'm just very self-critical, and like I see things.
I just love process. I love process. I love how you even designed this graphic with these arrows that represent baseball.
Yeah, this is
stitching.
Here's the.
I didn't even think about that. Total
accident. Didn't? I thought that was totally intentional. It totally looks like baseball stitching.
I like that it's like the logo sheet we're looking at. Like, here's the version from 1907, and then they squared it up a little bit in 1928. Then in 1954, they went a little further, and here's where we are today.
Yeah, well, because I get so much stuff like I get really messy artboards because I don't sketch with pen and paper, which a lot of people feel shunned about that because I'm not a sketcher. I mean, I sketch on.
You do wear Skechers though. You're of the age. Sorry.
Yeah. But I do most of my sketching in Illustrator. So, I've just got like a ton of just shit all over the artboard. So I have to do stuff like this to kind of keep myself in check of like, okay, here's what I'm liking, here's what's working. Okay. But I knew I wanted to do a monogram, there's the old one is so classic, the original, but it's got all these negative space areas in it that, I just looked at it and wondered if it could be simplified, if it could be cleaned up, if it could have a little bit more breathing room in between like some of the elements. So, that first iteration, mainly because I was lazy, I tried smooth letter forms and kind of reminded me of the Padres rebrand. They redid their SD monogram, and it's a very smooth S. And so I kept kind of like pushing it to try to get it back to a little bit of like an homage to the original. So like I started angling the corners, and then finally gave in. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to go in and do these weird ass little like curved angle things. And so like I finally just sucked it up and figured out a way that I could incorporate the F in there on the last one. Because the F on these middle three starting to not look like something that I wanted it to look like.
I wasn't going to say that, but
I figured out how to approach the F. I had to give up trying to have the stem of the F go like through the actual mathematic middle of the S. So like it had to be offset a little bit, but that was I gave myself room to do that and didn't sweat it too much. But like I just knew I wanted to do a monogram from the beginning, and that's kind of what.
So let me ask you some technical questions.
Okay.
So when you're defining a curve like this, are you freehanding it? Are you doing a giant circle? Are you finding the middle and creating a point and then rounding that? What is your process?
So you see these two points at the top. So I would find the middle point in between there, and I was just drawing an oval and making sure that oval was like in the center of those two points. And then I would bring it down to where it was cutting enough out of the letter that felt good. And then I would take that same kind of math and just apply it to every angle that was on that S and F.
That's not easy to do.
No, I'm sure there are people out there that could do it way better than I did, or way smarter. But
no, I don't think so. I think that's probably the smart way to do it. Mm-hmm. And then in these points, you're doing a little bit of a smoothing, right?
Right. Yeah. So I noticed on the original, they kept the inside simple with
Yeah.
like straight lines, I think. So, which was a huge relief for me to have an excuse to not work on it any more than I did, and just keeping these inner lines straight somehow worked. Like I felt like it was it was a nice spiritual successor to the original, maybe.
Yeah, and then let me ask you this question: the shadow, it implies a little bit of a light source, right? Because the shadow is not even. Was that your first inclination to make it deeper on one side, or
Yeah.
did you try to make it symmetrical at first?
So I mean, I love building monograms in general, and I especially love going in and doing like little shadow cuts and things that can add some dimensionality to them. It felt a little too clean, like whenever I just had like an arc, making that shadow. So I just brought down that right side a little bit to give it a little bit of something, and it looked better than the one right next to it, so I rolled with it.
I'll tell you, I think that's my favorite. When I first saw this matchup, that was the detail that jumped out to me as like, oh, okay, this is something a little different, because my inclination would have been to make that completely symmetrical. But the fact that it's not, like you said, Billy, it implies a light source, and it just adds that extra step. You know what I mean? To make it just,
well, it gives it some emotion. It gives it some interest, right? Because if something is like
interest, there you go. That's the
if
word,
something is perfectly symmetrical in general, right? It can be boring. So having a little bit of a touch that throws it off is important. Gives it some soul. Let's put it that way. So I think what's interesting to me is from an outsider looking in, you start here and then you're like, well, let me buck the trends. But then when you get down to here, you're really doing an homage, a simplification and homage to the original letter forms. And I wonder if that was at all like, were you sort of fighting yourself on that? Like, yes, this one, the last one that you ended up with, one looks the best, right? But were you sort of struggling with that at all? Like, well, crap, it's maybe too close to this, or I'm borrowing too much from this one, or I didn't change it enough, or something like that.
So I sent some of these early iterations to buddies of mine that are like really, really big into baseball. And what I found out is that people are very particular about the Giants monogram. And, it like immediate reactions, they were too different, like it just felt a little, I didn't realize that, like my casual baseball friends were, that particular about it, but it was enough to make me want to like dial it back a little bit and be like, okay, well, I'm not going to try to do something completely new. I just want to try to do something that is, an evolution of.
It really is an evolution, and I could honestly see it right now. They could roll out with this right now, and people would dig it. I think. 50
maybe
50% of people would hate it, but then in a year they would think that was always the logo.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you did. You went above and beyond.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little mock-up of a hat going on here.
I thought this was like a photo shoot you had done of the hat. That you got in 5 days.
Yeah. No, I put these together. Like Billy texted me while I was on vacation, and I was like, "Oh damn!" But we've got to promote this. So I made some mock-ups real quick because like I don't know, I like to see something through and working.
Mock-ups are fun. Mock-ups are fun.
Oh yeah.
Who doesn't like doing a mock-up?
It's just ingrained in the muscle memory now.
Yeah, I mean, and it's you got it on a hat. It's just cool to see things whether it's just JPEGs or real life, them live,
Mm-hmm.
apart from just a flat JPEG. This is sort of split up here, but there we can see it better here. You did a total update and improvement on their old script, which is slick as hell. It's really good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, like I love that old script. I wanted to do something with it. And I was really torn between a monogram or reworking that script. So like I just figured I would approach the whole thing from like as like an evolution, an evolution of the monogram and like an evolution of like my favorite lettering that they used.
Yeah, it's really good. Did you actually start with their letters and sort of start making yours on top of that, or did you like what is your, because this looks so clean to me. There's no pixel out of place on this script.
Well, theirs is like super exaggerated. It's like skyrocketing.
Well, it's really angled.
I was saying the angle is very dramatic.
Your angle's way better.
So,
go ahead.
But yeah, like I really love their G. I love that like super simple, like I don't know, their old G felt like
kind of a sign paintery kind of a G.
And I like the simple. I forget my typography architecture, but whatever the line is that comes down, I'm sure somebody is
descender.
Correct me in a second. Yeah, sure. Probably. But yeah, I wanted to make it similar, but updated, and again, adding like little shadow cuts to like the T, just something to, I don't know, give it that little bit of interest. And I always wanted this on a two-tone jersey, which is like the whole reason I went forward with this, because like I love two-tone baseball jerseys.
Yeah.
And which is like really like the selfish reason that like I went forward with building all this out.
It looks great, and I think there's an interesting sort of lesson to be learned here. Like when we go back to the history, right? Like you can see the soul of the idea here, but it's just messy, right? It's a mess. Like this one color simple. This is tight. This is nice, right? And so when you do something like this, there's no outlines, there's no fucking drop shadow, there's no baseball in the background. You know what I mean? Like it distilled. You were able to thicken it up, distill it down, and clean it up. And it looks awesome. There it is with the FS, the SF. And if it's baseball, it needs a roundel logo, of course.
Gotta have one.
I love the roundel. I love this too. This is so cool. This is great.
Let me ask you, why just submit the why did you decide to go with just the monogram as opposed to the monogram with the word mark over it?
Because if you had submitted this,
you would have won by even
I would have
more.
got like 3 votes. If you submitted this, I would have got like 3 votes. Seriously.
I think it's because whenever we first talked about this, and I think we talked about this like last summer or something, like whenever we did like a crop live, Billy, and you told me that you had this idea coming out. It's like I think since I've ever first heard of it, that like I always envisioned it as like a rebrand, and to me like that rebrand, felt like my definition of that was like redoing a logo, and like this just felt like too much of like, this felt like it would maybe make a good t-shirt, but and it's 2 elements that might be good marks on their own, but like I don't know, I wanted to submit like just like a standalone thing and see how it did.
You would have, well, you would have won either way. You would have destroyed me with this thing because this looks cool.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Either way,
make some t-shirts out of this.
just have to take off that TM first.
Yeah, well, obviously, I would never print it for you with that TM on there. Man, this was a good matchup, and we had a lot of fun. Somehow we didn't get a lot of votes, either of us. I think
that's really weird.
People were just torn.
Maybe, yeah. If they just got there and closed the browser, they're like, I can't.
Like not today.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, when I look at my script next to your script, I'm just like, yeah, man, I suck. I suck. I feel bad about myself. I should play my loser thing again.
You should listen to it every day
of
the baseball season. Now
yes,
that opening
I'm
day.
going to listen to Radiohead's "Creep" on repeat now. Just sad. This was a good matchup, though. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, the funny thing is like, for me, like it's hard to just do things to do them. I guess if that's a stupid way to put it, but if you make up imaginary goals and deadlines for yourself, like making a logo for Super Design Bowl, then you end up doing it. So I love this sort of opportunity to kind of to do this shit. And I should have just made this website for myself and just did it every week.
You should have. But I mean, I love doing it, and I was telling some people the other night about it, like the AIGA student chapter or something. We were just talking about like how you need to just do things for fun, and honestly, like this couldn't have come at a better time for me because like I haven't been like burnt out, but like like I've just been doing just getting the jobs done, and like whenever you do that, sometimes you forget to have fun with them. So like this was like an opportunity to just have no brief and just really kind of actually have fun with it. It kind of brought me out of a funk a little bit. So
well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Should we tease our potential new project, Matt?
Sure. Yeah.
I want Charlie to tease it though. I'm tired of listening to you two.
Charlie doesn't know. So Joe, Matt and I are, you actually know about this because
I do.
Yeah, because Joe came up with the name. I don't even know if we want to give out the name, even if we're decided on the name yet.
I want to buy the URL first.
I'm gonna slap a TM on that name. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, we'll make sure to put a TM on the name. Yeah, but Matt and I are thinking about doing a graphic design talk show. The first ever live call-in talk show for graphic design.
Oh man!
So people, any schmuck can come on the show.
Are you gonna do like weather, like on the 9s and traffic reports?
Hopefully, we'll just get some pissed off people. Maybe we can do some portfolio reviews. Just whatever. I think it's whatever anybody wants to talk about. We're gonna give it a shot. So stay tuned. I think we're gonna make it happen. And by the reason I've pre-announced it, not that we're announcing it yet, is that once you say it, once you put it out there, you have to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yeah. So just what I need. Another hobby. Another time. More crap to do. But producing content on this platform is super easy. So I'll put a link to your guys' stuff down below. If people want to buy this hat, Matt, can they do that?
I don't think they can. I mean, if somebody really wants
to send
tell
Matt
me what I can't do, Matt.
Send Matt some money.
You're not my boss. I'll buy that hat.
All right.
People are gonna want to buy that hat. Okay. And I've tagged the Giants in all this stuff. So
perfect.
Good luck with that.
Tag their lawyers too.
Yeah.
Like their legal counsel.
That's right.
Well, from me and Willie Mays, thank you so much, fellas, and thanks for watching, everybody. I think for the 3 people that watch this, thanks. I'll talk to you guys later.
Guys. It's fun.